you should really make every effort to not fool yourself, which is hard. It's challenging at times, but read books like Bad Science, read books like How to Lie with Statistics. Ensure that you are able to read studies well. You don't have to be the best in the world, but that you can, on some level, identify the strengths and weaknesses of studies. This doesn't take a long time. Certainly, our friend Dr. Peter Attia has Studying the Studies, which is a multiple-part blog series dedicated to this. There are other ways to approach it. I took one of his podcasts, republished it on the Tim Ferriss show because it talked about how to examine studies, what powering refers to, things like this. In the span of 1 or 2 weeks, you could really become literate with the building blocks of scientific literacy with respect to reading studies. And that gives you such an enormous life advantage. It's hard to overstate. And as you get more involved with science, and in my case through a foundation, the SciSafe Foundation, funding a lot of early stage science, you realize how expensive it is and how long it takes. It is a long-term investment. And if you are looking to make behavioral changes or modify aspects of yourself, cognitive, physical, psycho-emotional, or otherwise, identifying interventions, right, options that seem to have some plausible upside. There is a mechanism that might make sense in humans. If you feel fairly certain there's very limited downside, which should include talking to people who are presenting their results as anecdata, then maybe you consider using X if you can cap your downside. Right? And I recall, for instance, looking at resveratrol, specifically not for longevity, but in potentially increasing endurance for our body. And I ended up testing it, and there's a funny story associated with that. Didn't quite work out as planned, and I don't use it any longer. But what I experienced prior to actually finding this on forums was joint pain, elbow pain. The one most consistent side effect was what felt like tendinosis in the elbows. And then I went online, and I'd already done this, but I hadn't come across, I think it was the 500 group. People had been using 500 milligrams of resveratrol daily for long periods of time. And one of the most common reported side effects is joint pain. And I was like, okay, I'm not willing to make that trade-off.